And welcome to the Cleve, Loveland, and the Lone Ranger shows. We've been giving everybody their real estate news for over 25 years here on 580 AM WDBO. You want to tune in to find out what's going on in real estate. Don't worry about watching all the talking heads on the fake news. We will tell you where is inventory, what is happening, how to get your offer accepted amidst a sea of other offers. Is this a bubble? No, it's not. What's going on with rental properties? Are rents rising? Why is this happening? All of your real estate questions answered here on Cleve, Loveland, and the Lone Ranger show. And the big news I've got this week, inventory report out for April. And no surprise, the number of buyers out there far outweighs the number of sellers. So we've got a serious seller's market. We're down to less than 3,000 homes. We've been there for about 3 months. It dropped slightly. The good news is, though, in this report, usually we take about 3,000 new listings a month. Well, last month about 4,500 homes listed, which is good, plugging the inventory. And a lot of the people I'm moving right now, a lot of the people listing, and are people that weren't even thinking about moving 2 years ago, and it's affordable now. They're going to get an extra 5, 6, 7% out of their home. Interest rates are still unbelievable. We're going to talk to Bruce about that. They are unbelievable. And so, and everything is. The hard part now is figuring out your situation is, okay, if you're going to sell, not a problem. But where do you go? And finding the one you want to buy is the one. So you kind of got to either get pre-approved before to buy without selling, or I can get you a lease back in your home. I've got some sellers staying a couple weeks. I got some sellers staying a couple months. There's all kinds of things that can be negotiated. So it's really typical. This is why I have a job, and you can't just go down to the bookstore, Barnes & Noble, if there's still one open, and buy a book on how to sell your home. Every situation is different. You need an expert, and I do this literally. I've done this thousands of times in my 30 years. So, Bruce, interest rates?
Interest rates are unbelievable. I mean, look, let's face it. They're not as low as they were at the beginning of the year. And, from October to, January, we're probably the best, but they're still extremely attractive. I mean, I'm still locking loans in the low threes, mid threes for even marginal credit. FHAs running in the mid threes. 15-year, I looked at a 15-year yesterday at 2.5% and even as low as 2.25% on a 15-year with an 800 credit score. So, and you don't have to have 800. Anything over 760 is all considered the same. But incredible, unbelievable interest rates. And here's the thing. Do you know, I know that most of my listeners out there that have got a mortgage probably have already refinanced, right? You would think, You would think that it's not a big secret. The only reason you wouldn't have refinanced is if you were in a coma, right? Yeah. Or you're so busy that it just wasn't as important enough for you to save money.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. You still have time. I won't razz you about it, even though you are a major procrastinator. I'm going to put it beyond us, and I'm going to take your loan.
But what if they got one of your bank statement loans that people do for self-employed, and maybe they got their tax returns just done for 2020?
Well,
and they
you
look
had
a lot
to do
better.
your tax returns, so you're first of all, if you're self-employed, you better have done your tax returns. But there's also additional COVID restrictions on self-employed people, and you need to be aware of that because Fannie Freddie never want to make it easier for self-employed.
Yeah.
Even though we know it's the self-employed, including Cleve and I, that we know that this country is based on what we do. And I really appreciate my self-employed people. Unfortunately, the industry does not favor you, and they make it a little bit more challenging. However, if you want to get a conventional loan, you want to get an FHA loan, you want to get a VA loan, you can do it as self-employed. You just have to supply your last 2 years' tax returns, make sure your income didn't decline. And if it did decline, you're using worst case scenario. If it declined more than 20%, you got a bit of an issue. If it declined a little bit, you're okay. You're going to use worst case scenario. If you were better in 2020, which a lot of people were, believe it or not, a lot of people were better in 2020 than they were in 19, then I'll average the last 2 years. The difference is, folks, right now, you have to supply your last 3 months' bank statements from the business account to show that you are on target with your deposits going into that account to equal what you did in the previous year. If you need more explanation on that, you call me at 407-250-9144. That's 407-250-9144, or apply online at webringyouhome.com. I have a team of experts. If you are self-employed, if you're a veteran, if you're a teacher or law enforcement, don't go to another lender. I'm going to tell you something. You might even, listen, you can shop around all you want, but there in Cleve, you know this.
Yep.
There is not a client that comes through my door that I don't know who you are, I don't know about your file, and I damn sure going to make sure I close your loan on time. That's my commitment to you. And what happens is, it was interesting, Cleve and I, we were at our big convention about 2.5 weeks ago. And it was interesting to see that 60% of mortgage transactions either fail or the client is completely dissatisfied with the transaction. That ain't going to happen when you come to me.
It's not.
It's not going to happen.
Now, one thing going on right now, and if you're a buyer, you're dealing with this, I prep my buyers up front for this. If you're a buyer, you're probably going to be in a multiple offer situation, Bruce. So that's really important that they get fast track.
Fast track is a full loan approval. It's not a pre-approval. Okay. Like right now, you need to be as close to a cash buyer as you can. So rather than pre-approving you, meaning you've sent me your bank statements, pay stubs, divorce decree, all that stuff, and then I've written a pre-approval letter for you, I will physically have your loan underwritten and we'll get a full-on loan approval. And then when I call that listing agent, when you're in a multiple offer situation, I will guarantee him a 21-day close or sooner. And because your loan is fully approved, the only thing I'm waiting for is an appraisal, a contract, and title work. That's it.
And this is what's important. This is what my agents do and what I do. When the buyer goes out to look, you're going to buy something at $350. Right now, I'd say, well, we need to find you something that's listed for $330, $340, and we might end up higher than that.
Well, if you're going to buy $350, you might end up at $375.
You could. It depends on the neighborhood. And this is, but the main thing is I want the buyer to be comfortable with it. So they need to see the last couple sales and say, look, this one went under contract in 4 days and sold for $10,000 above list. You're okay in this neighborhood.
Right.
And when there's like, I had 20 offers on a property over the weekend, Bruce. So that means the seller was like, hey, I'm okay with it. Get me out of it. I'm making good money. And he said, price it there. I said, we probably could have pushed the price up $5,000 or $10,000, which is where we ended up $10,000 over list on this little house out in Winter Haven. But that's, he was just like, do that. My sellers are my bosses. And
as long as the buyers have
the buyers have it. And what happened, what I was looking for is not only the person who would go a little bit above appraisal, but the most complete, not a pre-qual. I want a pre-approval. I want a fast track. I want a buyer that if it doesn't appraise, they don't care. They've got the extra cash. It's not their problem. Because, and what's funny is I had 3 cash offers in that bundle of all those offers. The 3 cash offers, I called them all and said, hey, you guys want to do this? The seller would love to close in 2 weeks, but this is the price you got to do. They were all 5% less than the highest bidder.
Well, the cash offer and the offer pad stuff, they're not going to be in your...
Oh, they're never even close.
They're not even close.
No, they're not even close.
So, and it's unfortunate that I watch those commercials, Cleve. They're very convincing commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, it's easy for people to get sucked into...
Yeah, the marketing company does their job on those, yeah.
They're doing a great job. They're doing a really good job. Yep. So, but the fact of the matter is you've got to hire a professional that's going to fight for your money. And even Cleve, so it's interesting to hear that story, Cleve, because you got $10,000 over ask. You might have gotten more than that, but you consulted with the client and the client said, I'm good there.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So you could have said, you know what, John, if you're not good there, let's see if I can get you another 5. And he could have said, okay.
I had some people that offered more. I had some people that offered 20, 30,000, but I asked the buyer, I said, if it doesn't appraise, what can you do? And they're like, yeah, we can't do that. So I found the buyer with some extra cash just in case. And this is the thing to remember. I remember in 2005 talking to people that had flipped. They've done about 3 flips and they were buying 2 more homes. And I said, are you harvesting some of this cash into your 401k or into your retirement accounts or into a savings account? And, and pigs get fat. Hogs get slaughtered.
Yes, they do.
And this is the time, we don't know when this is going to slow down. I don't think it will for a while. This is not as crazy as 2005, but it is just as short in inventory. But the builders are the ones that oversupplied us in 06 and 07.
And that's not happening now.
Not happening now. So we know we got that. Sleepy Joe's giving us inflation. So we got a bunch of different things going on. But Florida's also moving up to be a more expensive state compared to the rest of the country.
Let's talk about that because I think you bring up a really good point. We look at it and we look at what we have available, and we're looking at paying over appraised value right now. But here's what I have watched our market compared to other markets like San Antonio, a very similar area. Okay, Dallas, Houston. Okay, and then you can get out into some areas of California. Very similar lifestyle. Not quite so liberal over here, but similar lifestyles, right? Climate. But when you look at their prices, ours are still at a discount.
Oh, yeah.
They're still at a discount. We are not. And like you said, we're going from number 20 to maybe number 17. It may be number 15 in highest price. And
that's what's going to happen.
But you're comparing that to somewhere in Alaska. Okay, I mean, come on, that might be on number 2. I don't know what Alaska is, but
they're less expensive
Alabama,
than us, but
right?
So
some in Georgia.
I used to be able to move people back to North Carolina or back to South Carolina, and they were less expensive. They are more expensive than us now,
right?
And the only place in Georgia that's less expensive is like out in the country, not around Savannah or Atlanta. They're more expensive than us.
It's interesting. You can even buy property here in Florida at a lot cheaper. So a quick story. I was on my way back from a wedding on Monday that I went to on Sunday from Tallahassee. My car overheated on Highway 10 in the middle of nowhere outside of Lake City, Florida. Now, if anybody's been to Lake City, Florida, okay, congratulations. Lake City does exist. And Live Oak, Florida. Yeah. I found it. Okay, broke down. Told me it was going to take a day just to get the part. Okay, like I had to bribe the guy to get me a part from another dealership. I ended up getting it. However, the guy at the dealership says, "Oh, what kind of business are you in?" I said, "Well, I'm in the mortgage business." He says, "Oh my God, I just paid off my house last week." I'm like, "Congratulations, man! What an accomplishment." He says, "Yeah, but houses are a little cheaper here." I said, "Oh, when'd you buy it?" He says, 2 years ago. How much you pay for it? $30,000. $30,000. You bought a house for $30,000. Well, no wonder you paid it off in 2 years. That's fantastic. So you want to live in Live Oak, Florida? We might be able to get you in for
below 100,
under $100,000. There you go. You can live in Live Oak.
Well,
Florida.
Bruce, what else is going on? How much time we got? We got a couple minutes.
We got we've got
I want to ask you real quick about I don't like this, but I have people calling me saying, "Hey, I want to go buy a second home," and I'm like, "No. I think we should buy you an investment property, or you leapfrog out of your primary, have a rental property." But I think people should use money from an investment property and spend that on a month at the Ritz-Carlton, not buy a house at the beach you never use.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't think that buying an investment property is necessarily the wrong thing for some people. The problem with investment properties that I see, now this is coming from a mortgage lender. You won't hear this from my competitors because they want to do your mortgage as an investment. But there's easier ways to do it. Now, how easy do you think it is for somebody to come up with 20% to put down on an investment property?
It's hard.
I mean, if you're at $350,000, we're talking $75,000 for your down payment alone. How many investment properties can you buy in your lifetime if you had to save that kind of money? It's unrealistic to be able to get into the game. However, if you listen or attend Cleve and I's workshop on wealth building, how to retire as a millionaire, we show you how to leapfrog from a primary and then rent it. Primary, rent it. Primary. And look, your down payment ever is.
I got somebody 5%. Right now doing their third one, their first two.
5% down. You will accumulate property and wealth like 10x from what it takes.
And when we come back, we'll give you the date on our next wealth building seminar. You can reach me, Cleve Loveland, at 407-352-8118 or cleveloveland.com.
Yep, and don't forget, keep that number handy. If you got any questions for the Lone Ranger, you want to refinance, your teacher, law enforcement, first responder, veteran, call me, 407-250-9144. That's 407-250-9144. Or visit my website at webringyouhome.com. We'll be back in 5 minutes with more of Cleve Loveland and the Lone Ranger Radio Show.